Welcome to the Mines and Money Gold Conference, to the Capitalising on the Gold Bull Market. My name is Kerry Stevenson. I am the founder of the Gold and Alternative Investments Conference, as well as the Gold and Alternative Investments YouTube channel. Today, I'm delighted to be joined with four absolute experts, all male, but we won't go into that. We'll start off with my friend Hedley Widdup. He's the Executive Director of Lion Selection Group. Welcome, Hedley. Next
Hey,
up, Kevin McElligott, the Managing Director Australia for Franco, Nevada. Thomas Puppendahl from Chancery Asset Management. He is the founder and Managing Director. And last, but by all means not by least, is Andrew Ballingal, who is the founder and Chief Investment Officer for Ballingal Investment Advisors. Welcome, everybody. We've got 20 minutes, so I'm not going to talk very much. I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'm going to start off with you, Hedley. Do you think that this is where, in this gold, clearly we are in a gold bull market. Gold's up 5% today. We've had a bit of a run. Silver is just playing the silly game, being very flat at the moment. Do you think that we are in a gold bull market? Is this where investors are going to make their money in 2020? And finally, got any hot gold projects you want to share with us?
I think there's a few ways to answer the question, but to cut straight to the chase, I'd have to say, yeah, look, I think we're in a market which is extremely bullish for gold, and there's more and more investors who are becoming interested in how they get exposure to it. And traditionally, the easiest way for them has been via equities. It's easier now to get access to the metal spot or through derivatives if that's what you'd prefer, but you still get that leverage that way. I guess the only overlying concern is that is there any pervasive equity market weakness to come upon us, and irrespective of what your own position is on that, I think that at the other side of that, the fundamentals for gold are going to remain very good, and gold equities would tend to perform strongly on the other side of that. So in an absolute sense, I have confidence that gold is a great place to be, and in a relative sense, I think it's going to outperform the market as well. So on both of those metrics. And your final question, Kerry, I'd be foolish to promote something that I wasn't involved in. So if anyone wants to go and get fuller than a state school with Nusantara, the code's NUS. It's got a brilliant project in Indonesia, which is about 16 years of mine life. And it looks like it's very close to being funded. So I think that's a good place to be for a re-rating as you go from prospective developer to funded producer.
Hedley, before I go to the other guys, are you seeing any impact of this COVID virus? I mean, here we are all on Zoom at the moment. Is that impacting, for example, Nusantara?
Most of their team, who's crucial to the development of the project, are on the ground in Indonesia and located where they need to be. So travel restrictions aren't so much of a drama for them. Clearly, the jurisdiction could be a place that is bitten in a different way to Australia. So that remains to be seen. But even between Victoria, where I am, and New South Wales, where you are in Australia, we're seeing differences. So I think that's a moving feast. But as opposed to having to cross international boundaries to get there, the people are on the ground. So they can keep working exactly as they were before this took place.
Hedley, thank you. I will come back to you. I just want to get everybody's opinion on a couple of things. Andrew, next up, I'm going to come to you, even though I can't see your face. Never mind. Andrew, just wanted to ask you about, given where you are, what's the risk appetite like at the moment? Are you seeing, is it going into bullion or is it going to mining stocks? Where is the money at the moment? And do you see investors making money in 2020, given what's going on at the moment?
Well, they should have made a lot of money if they've been long gold. It's one of the few things that's made money for people this year. If they've been long gold stocks, they've done even better. And if they're long the BI gold fund, they'd be up 50, 60%, and probably with other good gold funds. Our view is that if you're a gold bull, with some important cautionary notes and caveats, then it makes sense to be bullish about gold mining equities. I say gold mining precious metal equities, because it would certainly include silver in our optimism. Subject to being able to find companies which are well managed and have various safety characteristics, the most important of which is that they're reasonably valued. And that continues to be our view. And I guess if you look at the measures that we look to say where we are in the scheme of things, if you look at gold against the S&P. It's barely shifted, but it looks like it's bottoming. If you look at gold shares, big gold shares against the S&P, they've been a disaster for an extended period until very recently. If you look at small ones, they've been an even bigger disaster. And if you look at shares relative to gold, they've been a disaster, all of which, and finally, I guess I put silver relative to gold. Most of the measures on our dashboard, which say, are we in the early, middle, or late part of a precious metals bull market or frenzy? The answer is these are still the foothills. And it's very easy to explain from a fundamental standpoint why that should be the case. Most importantly, that we've now been promised no interest rates for the rest of time, that gold trades now obviously at a premium, but not an extraordinary premium to the true cost of production. And because it traded for an extended period at or around that cost of production, then we know that future supply will be somewhat disappointing relative to expectations 5-10 years ago. But the key thing obviously is demand side. Demand side is driven by, firstly, competition from other assets, and across the whole yield curve now there is no competition, and we're promised there won't be any. And stocks have gone back to being, certainly in the US, extremely expensive, and probably not cheap adjusted for the risks that they now face anywhere else. And real estate, I think people are beginning to feel that the guilt is off the gingerbread, and real estate is one of the largest assets for most people and quite a lot of institutions, and that certainly has got its own challenge. So the competition looks very weak, and the final piece in the puzzle that gets people into gold is risk. And we've seen a significant shift in market measured risk in terms of volatility, particularly for equities, but also in other assets. And we've seen a heightening, increased appreciation of the risk in terms of politics and society, whether it's geopolitics, China and Europe and US confrontation, or in domestic politics with recent protests all around the world. So I think the scene is set for gold to move materially higher. Whether you buy the shares or the metal depends on what you're trying to achieve. Our preference is to buy the shares because we think you can put less money in there and get a bigger bang for your buck.
Andrew, you did mention you were fairly optimistic about the silver price. We talk a lot about gold. Silver seems to be a bit of the poor cousin. If you could just give us a quick comment on your views on silver, I'd appreciate that.
The gold-silver ratio is probably the single most important factor, and that's got to very extremely ratios. Silver very, very depressed. It's still very depressed, and the whole history of precious metal cycles is that silver has historically been a very, very strong performer in the middle and later, particularly the later stages of precious metals bull markets. So we would expect that ratio to normalize from around 100 back towards 50 or 60. So if gold goes up 50%, we'd expect on that basis silver to double. And I think those are reasonable targets.
Okay.
The thing that's helped, well, the other thing that's important is that finding good silver mining companies is always a challenge.
That's always a challenge. I agree. Andrew, I'm sorry. I'm going to just have to
Cut me off. Yep.
Very, very quick thing, and I want to make sure I get everybody's involvement. I'm going to whip across to Kevin McElligott, Managing Director for Franco Nevada here in Australia. Kevin, your views. I mean, you're in the streaming side of things. Where do you see the money going? We're in a gold bull market. If you could give us your views, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, okay, well, that's a big topic. I guess just to, I'm spending a lot of time looking at deals right now. We're as busy as we've ever been. We say that all the time, but we really feel like we're being pulled in 10 different directions right now. The one thing that's different, or that's, I think, unexpected, usually we're the ones who come through a crisis because we've always got cash in the bank, so we can show up at a time when other people can't. It's just the way we've always operated. We always try to have some cash in our back pocket. But what we're finding, so we're expecting the last few months that there would be situations where we were the only ones at the table. But it turns out completely wrong. There's plenty of capital out there right now, especially for gold projects. There's no sense anywhere that there's any shortage of capital for quality projects. There's plenty of competition for investment, and yeah, and there's no sense that we're at the top of the market. I think I would just reiterate or echo what's already been said. We had in non-US currencies, we had record high gold prices a year ago, and now we're approaching record high gold prices in nearly all currencies. I don't know. I only follow half a dozen of the major ones, but I can't imagine where the outlier would be now. But I don't see any end to that with all the stimulus spending. It's hard to be confident about any fiat or paper currencies right now. Yeah, so it's going to continue. And echoing what Andre said earlier, is gold the way to make a place to make money in 2020? Oh, well, hopefully you already have. And if you haven't, I don't think it's too late. I really don't. There's plenty of upside still. That's our feeling.
Well, I think there's plenty of money to be made, but you can also lose it as well if you're not doing seriously. There's bad. There can be the best asset in the world, but bad management can make it lose badly.
Well, yes, we are seeing a lot of old projects being dusted off. Ones that at current gold prices, people are pulling them out and saying, "Well, it's time to take another look at this." And we're saying, "Well, we're not that desperate. There's still plenty of quality projects out there."
Yeah, let's wait till the gold price gets way higher before we dust those old ones off. Thanks, Kevin. Thomas, over to you now. Thomas Puppendahl is the founder and managing director for Chancery Asset Management. Thanks for joining us. Thomas, what are you seeing in this gold bull market? Where is the money going, and what are you looking at the moment? Are people going to be making money in 2020 and beyond?
Yeah, first of all, it's interesting. Obviously, all of us here on the panel and most of everyone who is watching us, by definition, is probably bullish on gold. But I find it very interesting how casually you say that we're in a gold bull market, because until very, very recently, that was not really the case. And we've been in a gold bull market going back now since end of 2015, but only really since last year and very recently. And we had a few false starts in the last few years, and only now it's becoming very obvious that we're in a new bull market. So far it's been, I would call it a stealth bull market, because only in US dollars the gold price is still below, but very close to its old highs. We're now at close to $1,800, and we might soon breach the old high at $1,900. But in every other currency, the gold market is already at new highs and in a clear bull market. So that's one interesting observation, and which means also that most mainstream investors anyway have so far, I guess, missed the entire bull market in gold. We're apparently in a still very early stages. So yes, I think people are making and will be making money in gold this year. We're now halfway through this year, and the rest of the year should be positive for gold and gold stocks as well. I would look at it more from a midterm perspective. I think then out towards 2025, where gold will really accelerate, and towards a complete reset of the monetary system involving a much higher gold price, and of course much higher prices for gold stocks. As you said earlier, of course, with gold stocks you have to be very careful. You can still be in a gold bull market and pick the wrong company. That would be the worst of all possible outcomes. And so where the money is going is, I think, a lot of the smart money has been secretly going into gold already, and in an accelerated fashion. And the mainstream is still far behind and not participating at all. People still think that the Fed and the central banks will fix everything. The mainstream has been almost conditioned to buy the dips and believe that every dip is a buying opportunity for the general stock market. So the general mainstream will be in for a rude awakening sooner or later when it turns out that the central banks eventually cannot save the show and the music will stop sooner rather than later. So gold will be, I think, like in the 30s, become the one asset class that stands out when the what's called the everything bubble implodes, and finally gold will shine again.
Yeah, but as you said earlier, the mainstream, first of all, many people don't understand it. I mean, we're here on a panel today. Most of us are involved in one way, shape, or the other in the gold industry. But I think that, as you rightly say, there's many people that look at gold and say, you know, not interested, it doesn't give me a return, but it actually does if you look at it in a different sort of way. But most people don't understand that. And I think that's the passion that I have, is to try and get people to understand there is more to this than just looking at the price of gold. Hedley, I'm going to come back to you. I think we've got about 1 minute, so we're going to be very quick. You've mentioned one hot topic. Any final comments from you to those that are watching about this market?
More about gold than the rest of the market specifically, but each one of the commentators here is sort of angled on why gold should go up. And a lot of people who look at gold for the first time think, what should it be worth? And it's one of those very strange assets that you can't actually value. It's very, very difficult to pick what the price is going to do. And it's usually more of a direction trade and then a momentum trade, particularly when it starts to get some heat behind it. So I think the message on the broader market, if you want one and linking it to gold, is that the broader market is coming to gold. And when that happens, it goes up. I don't think you can get too much more analytical than that. If you wanted to take a really broad view, you can go into all sorts of details, but that's how I'd boil it down.
I would love to keep chatting to all of you because there's so much we could continue to talk about. Maybe I'm just going to call each of you later, but we've got to have to wrap it up, sadly. I'm going to finish by saying one thing, and that is, first of all, thank you all for your time. It's been fast-paced and furious even. One thing I will say is most people need to look at the fact that the paper money, you're losing purchasing power. All these governments around the world are just printing money like it's going out of fashion. We're going to see deflation. The purchasing power is going to go down. That's why you need to have a look at gold as part of your portfolio. That's it from me. I'd like to thank all of our speakers today. It's been fast and furious. Thank you very much, everybody. And I'll look forward to seeing you all at the next one. Thanks, guys.